already.
Hey, here we are, everybody. Happy
right.
Tuesday, March 13th, lucky 13. I am here with my friend Chris Castro, and we are in a completely different part of the club. The club was booked, and it was loud in the, I almost called it the lunchroom. It was loud in the lounge. So we found a place in the library here, and it's about to get louder. So Joe Toma's on. Joe, hey, how's it going? Let us know you can hear us and see us. I've actually got Chris mic'd. Hey, Kelvin. Jarrell's on too. Hey, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Let us know that you can hear us or see us, and because I really want to get into this, and it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but you know, we're in new territory, and I don't think Chris is afraid of that. So
no, I'm not.
Welcome.
Used to it, actually.
We got a thumbs up, so that means they can hear us and see us. So perfect. Welcome, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the TED Show.
The TED Show, right?
Another official TED Talk. Right?
Yeah, I can't say that out loud, or I'll get a cease and desist. But I like it. Thanks, Wyatt. He can hear us. That's good. So I started hearing about you, and since I'm not afraid of anything, I actually reached out to you. And of course, you had way too many friends on Facebook because you travel the world and you do so many great things for the city. And I just knew that it was so important to have you on because you're the buzzwords that so many people are talking about in the news: sustainability, renewable energy, green. Everything's green. That's all you. You're the guru of green. So welcome. Anyway,
Thank you.
Chris is the Director of Sustainability for the city, Smart Cities. There's a whole title in there that is on the bio. But you weren't always the Director of Sustainability.
No, I wasn't.
So give us a little background on you. And
sure.
A lot of the guests come on and they go, I was born and then I was the Director of Sustainability. So tell us a little bit more so we can know the why and the how.
Well, so I'm originally from Miami, Florida, born and raised down there. I'm a second generation Cuban American. My grandparents actually fled the island of Cuba the year that the Castro regime essentially took over the island.
Wow.
My grandparents were entrepreneurs, and they basically started their entire life over, in 1960. And so for me, growing up with that type of foundation has been instrumental. But I was fortunate to be raised in a fantastic family that really valued not just education and a good upbringing, but also respect for the environment. And when you're down in Miami, you're constantly going to the beach as much as you can. My parents would take me out to the Biscayne Bay. We would go diving and enjoying the Florida Keys as well. And so they really helped me find that love and affinity for the natural world. And another fun fact is that my stepdad owns a palm tree nursery. So I grew up actually growing trees, not edible plants, but primarily all types of tropical palms, all that we grew in Miami and would send all around the entire United States. And so, I remember growing up at first, it was, Chris, you're going to the farm, you're punished, and I did
You're going to the
something
farm.
wrong,
That
right?
has so many meanings.
You're going to the farm, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And year over year, I gained this kind of affinity where I actually really enjoyed it. And so, grew up down there. Then I graduated high school, trying to figure out where to go, and I started hearing about University of Central Florida and kind of the blossoming city that Orlando was becoming very early on. This was back in 2005, 2006. And another thing about me is that when I think back to the foundation of the environment, I mentioned a couple of things. Another one is my love for surfing. And when I was growing up, my parents would go up and down the coast of Florida, primarily stopping at Cocoa Beach, and we would go for a long weekend. And my brother and sister, and my brothers and sisters, in fact, I have a large family. I grew up with 2 brothers, 2 sisters. We would go up and we started surfing. And I became infatuated by the concept of surfing, kind of the ability for you to interact with a force of nature that's created hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away, right? And it's about to come to the shoreline and expend all of its energy, and all of a sudden you pick this thing up and you're riding it before it's all, and you're trying to do some turns, and I just fell in love with that feeling and with that concept. And surfing has become my temple. It's become my gym. It's become, essentially what allows me to go and kind of just start over almost.
To decompress.
It is.
Where you relax.
It is completely.
Which is funny because there's so much energy involved in that.
That's true. So I was thinking about where to go to college, and of course hearing about UCF in Orlando, but also a lot of my friends realized that the best surf is in Central Florida, from New Smyrna to Sebastian Inlet, and I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to study, but I do know I'm about 45 minutes from the coastline, so I'm going to Orlando.
Priorities, my
right?
friend.
That was
All
my
priorities.
And so I came to UCF and, essentially stumbled in this degree of environmental science and policy. I met a professor of mine. Her name is Dr. Penelope Canan. She's an unbelievable, not only professor, but sociologist. She helped to create the field of environmental sociology. And I remember I was trying to figure out where to go, and she says, Chris, just take this class, this intro class, and see, based on what I know about you, I think this may be, a good pathway for you. And I decided to take the leap. After her class, I became so inspired and empowered to do something about, where we're headed in terms of environmental degradation and social inequality.
What did your parents think?
Well, my parents were like, you know what, sounds like it's right up your alley, really.
Right.
They were a little bit worried about, obviously like most parents are, what is that from a career standpoint?
Correct. What are you really going to do with that degree, Chris?
Right. A lot of my friends were like, dude, you're not going to make piddlings, you're not going to make shit.
But you get to surf.
But I got to surf, and I get to still follow my passion of finding that balance between humanity and the environment. And so, since then it's been an unbelievable ride. I've been in the environmental movement, leading as a campus organizer and as a social entrepreneur, and now here at the Director of Sustainability for the city for over 10 years. And so this last decade has been transformative for my life. And I've had really interesting experiences in government at the federal, county, and city level, in nonprofits, in the private sector. I've started my own business, in the chambers and the independent sector, and then of course civil society. How do we actually get communities to really embrace these concepts and solve the problems by themselves so they can sustain their own livelihoods in their own communities? And so I've kind of looked at it from all of those aspects. I don't think that any single one of them is going to solve the world's problems, but I do think if we all work together, we can certainly make a huge difference.
Well, I think if you read your bio, there are so many things on there, and I want to talk about Director of Sustainability because I said it earlier, sustainability is a big buzzword.
It is.
That you're hearing a lot, and it's really become such a much bigger movement than even the basic movement originally was. But if you read your bio, there are many things that you're either on the board of or on the committee of or started that I didn't even know existed. There's a Green Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
See, I read a little bit of the bio. I did a little research. It's only a little bit. But you have so many amazing things that you do that I don't think a lot of people who aren't in it understand it. So talk a little bit about Director of Sustainability.
Yeah, so, this concept of sustainability oftentimes is really difficult for people to grasp. And at the end of the day, it's about how do we meet our current needs today, social, cultural, environmental, economic needs of today, without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their own needs, right? And that really is an interesting idea because it's really about a paradigm shift in how we look at the world. We're very much a short-term economic gain type of mentality where we're looking, sometimes if you're in a corporation you're looking quarterly, sometimes maybe in government you're looking a year out, but sustainability is about how do we sustain quality of life and economic prosperity and social inclusion out into the future. How do we sustain that decades to come? Because of course, we've been around for 200,000 years and as a species, and we have a long way to go.
I've been alive at least half that.
Right. So that's, sustainability is really about looking at what we call the triple bottom line: people, planet, and prosperity. It's about finding ways to improve quality of life, health, well-being of our people. It's about finding ways to improve the quality of the planet and protect our natural resources and ensure that we have safe and clean air, clean water, clean soils, right? And lastly, it's about economic prosperity. How do we ensure that moving forward we have the types of jobs and we have the type of economic growth that doesn't compromise the environment or people at stake? And I think in our current way of thinking, that's what we're doing. So sustainability in a lot of cities, and Mayor Dyer was one of the leading cities in the Southeast at least, and certainly one of those around the country who really thought about this about 10 years ago. he realized that Orlando's on an unbelievable trajectory, one of the fastest growing cities in the country. In fact, Forbes just named us the number 4 fastest growing region in the entire country, number 1 for STEM job growth, and at the same time, we're the number 1 visited destination in the country. 68 million visitors are coming to Orlando as of last year.
Wow.
And so Mayor Dyer 10 years ago said, well, if we're going to sustain our current way of life, we need to start looking at things a little bit differently, a little bit more holistically. What are some of those things that we can do to ensure long-term sustainability? And so he launched GreenWorks Orlando, this unbelievable initiative. It's really become a model for cities of all sizes to start to look at how do we really look at being more environmentally friendly, socially inclusive, and economically vibrant as a city and as a region at large. And
what is socially, you've mentioned socially inclusive a couple of times. Define that, because there's a lot of us that are a little older than you, just a teeny bit. And some of these words, we read about them, but we don't necessarily always ask what they mean. So socially inclusive as far as sustainability and the trajectory, what does that mean?
Well, I think it means really, it's not just about being diversity, right? It's not just about being diverse in terms of age and gender and ethnicity and sexual orientation. I think it's also about the inclusion of these various different groups and communities in the decision-making process and within essentially the stakes of our future as a city. And so we really try hard in Orlando to ensure that we are diverse and we're inclusive in the way that we build our plans. As an example, GreenWorks was developed by engaging thousands of community residents and business leaders in what are the priorities that the city should have to ensure long-term sustainability.
So you got their input, you got their opinions,
feedback,
you got their feedback.
Correct.
That's so important to go out, because I think a lot of times when these programs are launched, it's done in a committee. That's not how Mayor Dyer works or the city works.
Right.
But a lot of times things are done in a committee and there isn't any kind of feedback or input from the people that it's actually impacting.
Yes. Sure, exactly. And so we've been really diligent in almost everything that we do, not just in sustainability, but almost everything that we do in order to include the community and all different types of socioeconomic backgrounds, all different types of genders, age differences, so that we really make it something that the community owns, right? And that's something that is really important for long-term sustainability. The millennials alone will not save the world and will not save our city. It's going to be an intergenerational transformation where we're going to need to work with each other in order to get there, and we're going to need to work with other communities as well outside of the city limits. So that's really, when we're talking social inclusion, we're really talking, obviously all of the different types of demographics, but making sure they're part of the decision-making process.
So is GreenWorks, does it have projects that have been implemented in the city already? Is fleet farming one of them? Or how does that all work together? Because that's another buzzword, another program that I've actually heard about. I think the Hobarts are part of that, or somebody's part of that. I love Beth and Jim. But how is it that, Jose Alvarez says it was great working with you last year, and a whole bunch of people have said stuff, by the way. Clay came on, hey Jose, hey Clay, and said, no, you're right, it's not from the television, it's from people, Mary. Because she said, it's so loud in the background. It's just one particular, we're in a special area of the club. That's how it works with Chris. We're in the green area of the club. I'm making that up. It's not green over here. Are there specific projects?
Sure.
Fleet farming one of them. Once you got all the feedback in, what kind of projects were implemented in the city?
Sure. So when we were doing this activity, it was back in 2012, and the mayor assembled a major task force, a GreenWorks task force. It was really business leaders, community organizers, people in the community who basically made up about 20 individuals. It was chaired by former Mayor Rich Crotty at the county, and what we were trying to do is, what are the verticals, what are the major focus areas that the city should be working towards in order to be more sustainable? And we identified about 7 of those categories. One of them was a clean energy transition. We also want to focus on the built environment and green buildings, local food systems, solid waste and recycling, water resources, transportation, and finally, livability. From an urban planning perspective, from a tree canopy coverage perspective, we need to be a more livable city. So those are the 7 focused areas. And within each one of those, we have goals and targets that yield out to the year of 2040. So we're looking long term in this plan. And then we have strategies and tactics that we've identified for us to begin working on ASAP, right? And so a couple of those that I can name off. One of those is, as of recent, we've made a major commitment to move towards 100% renewable energy in the city of Orlando by mid-century, by 2050, citywide, and by 2030 for all of the city operations. And that's a big deal for us to be. We were the 40th city. I remember the United Nations, Bernie Sanders, we had major individuals tweet and post up about Orlando's commitment because we are an internationally renowned and well-known city, and for us to make that commitment shows that almost any city in the country and in the world can make that commitment.
What is renewable energy?
Well, renewable energy is essentially energy sources that use renewable sources like solar, wind, geothermal, biomass, tidal. These are sources of energy that are naturally occurring within our world, right? They're not essentially digging up fossil fuels that have been created over millions of years and burning them, which is really changing the chemistry of the atmosphere as we know it, right? The reason why we have pollution and carbon emissions, all of that is essentially changing the chemical makeup of the atmosphere. And what we want to do is move towards transition from the energy that's been building our world over the last 200 years to the energy that's going to shape the future of the 21st century and the future of moving forward as we know it. Imagine a future where we're producing electricity to power this iPhone, our computers, heating and cooling our homes, driving industry and manufacturing, but we're using energy sources that essentially are not harming public health and not harming the environment.
Not leaving a footprint.
Not leaving a negative externality and a negative footprint on the planet for future generations to clean up. And of course, when we started burning coal in the 18th century, we didn't think about the unexpected consequences that would have. We were thinking about quality of life and let's give people power, which led to unbelievable things. But it's had a consequence, and now we're seeing that the climate's changing as a result, and we're really starting to impact the lives of people. I think this conversation around climate change and sustainability needs to pivot towards quality of life and the impacts that it has on people. The more that people realize that this is connected to our life, the more that they'll care about it, and they'll want to make that transition to a renewable energy future. So that's a major thing. Mayor Dyer had the foresight to say, in the coming decades, we know that the technologies are there today. We may need a couple of things like energy storage for us to fully unlock this potential, but it's coming down the pike. In the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see commercial grade storage, and as a result, we're going to position Orlando to be this prototype city of the 21st century. How do we ensure that we produce all of our energy needs using the power of the sun, the power of our water, the power of the geothermal, etc. So that's a really exciting move, and I've been working with our internal team. I have an amazing team I haven't even talked about yet. Brittany Sellers, Ian Jurgensen, Ian LaHiff, Joe Englund. We have a robust team internally at the city that essentially is working on implementing a lot of these strategies that are within the Greenworks plan, and we're now looking at rolling out solar more on our rooftops. We're looking at large-scale solar farms with OUC. The Orlando Utilities Commission's been amazing in terms of their progress in transitioning towards solar, and we just unlocked a big solar farm in December that is now powering about 2,500 households in Orlando. So little by little, moving in the right direction.
So you unlocked a solar farm.
Yes.
That's fascinating. What does that mean? Remember, I love the language that you're saying because I hear it and I read about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people read through it and they don't ask the right questions, and I'm okay to admit that I don't know a lot.
Yeah,
most things.
Well, farms, as you can imagine, I grew up on a palm tree farm, so we had a large plot of land, and we were essentially growing different types of trees. And in a solar farm, you essentially have a large plot of land, and you're utilizing solar panels, photovoltaic technology, what they call, and they're absorbing a lot of the sunlight, and then essentially that sunlight's being converted into electricity. And through OUC's leadership, we basically just installed a 13 megawatt system, and I know that's kind of hard for the average person to know, but that's about enough power to power about 2,500 households in Orlando, and we put it on top of a coal ash landfill, a byproduct landfill from fossil fuels. So think about the irony of us burning all this coal or throwing it into this landfill because it's part of the byproduct, and instead we capped it and literally have lined solar panels on top of this thing, and it's an unbelievable system. And the cool thing about that solar array is people who live in 55 West, people who live in the View or Latitudes, whatever it might be. If you're in an apartment complex, if you're in a single family home in Audubon Park, you can now subscribe to this community solar farm, meaning that you can take 10 panels and I can take 10 panels and our neighbors might need 20 panels and they can take 20 panels, and all of us as a community subscribe to this large scale farm, and that way you don't have to put them on your rooftops. People in apartment complexes don't have the ability to put solar on their roofs, so how are they going to go solar? And with 50% of our population now just about living in apartments, we need to find alternatives for them to move towards renewable energy. So this recent installation of solar has been a major step in that direction.
That's amazing.
It's really, really neat. It's very, very cool, and we're working on we're all working on some much larger solar farms here in the coming year to 2 years. It's actually going to be a big deal.
So what can the average person do? Average homeowner, average person. Let's say you've got a house, you've done absolutely nothing. You might have a recycle bin, a recycling bin, but there are other programs that the city that you all offer to us. I've heard about a tree program.
Yes.
So can you what can the average person do? Because I think some people will immediately go solar. That sounds awesome, but it's costly.
Sure.
What kind of services can they contact the city about that can actually make an impact other than their recycling bin, which is awesome, by the way?
Yeah. So what we've done in the Greenworks office is really try to identify things that the average homeowner, like you're saying, could take advantage of so that they can green their life and improve their health. And one of those is, of course, the recycling program, which we encourage everybody to recycle. We want to move that forward. We also have a backyard composting program. And, most people don't realize, but about 40% of the waste that we put into our trash can is organics. It's waste that could be converted into energy or could be converted into soils through composting. So about 2 years ago, during Valentine's Day, we launched this program called Get Dirty for Valentine's Day.
And I did not hear about that.
It was a whole campaign to basically encourage homeowners to sign up for a free composter that we would not only assemble but deliver to your door, and start encouraging people with education. We have videos on our website. We have informative, booklets that you get when you get the composter, and to basically start encouraging them to move some of that food waste into this composter so that you can minimize on how much we put into the landfill. Well, that's a big deal for the city because we pay to tip into the landfill. We actually pay to dispose of our waste into this big hole. And if we can minimize how much we're throwing into the hole, we save taxpayer dollars at the end of the day, right? So we started to roll this out. Now there's 6,000 households in Orlando.
So how does it work? Wyatt just said, I want one.
Yeah.
So how does it work? They call into the city.
cityoforlando.net/composter.
Puts it in your backyard.
Nope, we deliver it to your door. You put it into your backyard or wherever you want to put it.
Okay, so delivered fully assembled.
Fully assembled.
Free. And then what happens? You put your food waste in there, so you separate out.
Not just food, but leaves. So a lot of people have oaks, right? And we're scraping up our leaves and we're putting them as yard waste. Well, you can take some of those leaves and you want to mix browns and greens in compost. We're going to get into the nitty. I don't want to get too far into the science of composting. We have videos online for you to check it out. But yeah, go to cityoforlando.net/composter and you can literally request one. And in about a month, we're going to come out to your door and we'll literally have it there. When you get home, you'll see it there. And it's been a widely adopted program.
I won't get into the dirty part of it, but so what happens that we put this stuff in and then it just automatically goes into our lawn, into our soil?
Yeah, it creates soil, and for those who have gardens at their homes, you can actually take that soil and extremely nutritious. If you don't have a garden, you can put it around your trees, you can put it around your shrubs, and it acts as a nutritious soil product, right? So that's one thing, so composting and recycling on the waste side. Secondly is this one person, one tree initiative. People forget how important trees are to our quality of life. And they're tied to everything from improving air quality to improving the stormwater runoff, right, and absorbing a lot of stormwater, to actually crime rates and vehicle miles per hour in your neighborhoods, right? The more tree canopy you have, the lower the crime rate, the lower people drive, because it feels kind of more inclusive. It's really interesting. So there's a lot of studies that show the benefits of trees, and then there's intangible benefits, right? Like habitat. development and wildlife habitats for our birds and other species we share this planet with, right? So we have a program where we're now offering both street trees, so outside of your door, the city owns a part of the right-of-way out in the street. We come in and we can professionally plant street trees for you. All you have to do is sign up, and they're free of charge.
Oh my God.
And then we have another program where you can put it in your private property. Let's say it's in your backyard and you have a really nice place for a tree. You can go online and order a free tree that we deliver to your door, just like the composter. You'll come home and there'll literally be a box and there'll be a tree inside of it with information on how to plant it. And we're trying to encourage people to plant trees from a quality of life standpoint.
Sure.
Our goal is 40% tree canopy coverage in the city of Orlando, and we're approaching 30% now with what we currently have. So from a bird's eye view, when you look down to Orlando, the idea is for us to have a robust canopy of trees. It helps minimize also the urban heat island effect, which for those who don't understand urban heat island, it's basically the fact that a lot of this infrastructure in our cities are absorbing heat energy all day, and without plants to cool it, we're using a lot of air conditioning, and it actually affects the energy use in your building. So in downtown, it's about 7 degrees warmer than it is out in East Orange County where you have natural ends, right?
Sure.
That 7-degree difference in temperature in the middle of the night, let alone the day, right? In the middle of the night, effectuates our energy consumption. So we want to push the trees, and people essentially can go on our website as well, cityoforlando.net/trees, and you can go through the process of either a street tree or a private tree or both for you to help us increase that canopy. So composting, recycling, trees. The other thing I want to talk to you all about is grease. And our water reclamation department launched a grease fighter program in order to minimize how much grease we're putting down the drains. We use cooking oil. All of a sudden, there's a lot of people who still actually put grease down the drain, and that clogs up our wastewater system. It actually starts to impose a lot of cost for the city to ensure that wastewater isn't backing up in our houses, right? So we launched a program called the Grease Fighter, where you can get a free container at one of our community centers, free of charge. You pick it up, you throw your grease into there after you're cooking. Once it's full, you take it back to the community center, and we collect that and we turn that grease into biofuels. We turn that into biodiesel primarily. And this is a program that the city launched just last year. We diverted 3,000 gallons of grease from households in 1 year of promoting the program. And it's been a great effort for you to do the right thing, save money for the city, and protect the environment at the same time, right? So it's a triple whammy win. And so check out the Grease Fighter program. That's another thing you can search. The last thing I'll mention is just on the lowering utility bills. Most people don't realize that a good portion of our household income goes to utilities. It's the second highest cost to live, right? So OUC has some amazing programs that you need to know about. OUC has a program called the Efficiency Delivered program, Efficiency Delivered, and this is where they come out to your house and do a free energy assessment. They'll literally go through your house, they'll look at your air conditioning unit, they'll look at your hot water heater, and they'll say, hey, you're spending $200 a month. If you make X, Y, and Z improvements, you can lower that bill to $150 or $125 a month. And OUC will provide rebates for you. So if you do make an investment, they actually have some programs where they'll kick back money to you to help you save. So it's free of charge. All you got to do is contact OUC and say, I want you to come out to my house and give me an assessment, an audit of my home. And they'll talk about the energy efficiency improvements and the water efficiency improvements of your house, and find ways to lower your cost at the end of the day. So those are some easy
those are amazing
steps,
things.
right?
Like,
those are easy steps that all of us can do.
But I think people don't, it's not that you all haven't done an amazing job, I think, of getting it out there.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that think it's going to be too difficult, or it's going to cost them money, and they don't do the research. So what we're going to do is make sure that we provide all of the links when we share the video, and when Chris shares it later. We'll provide all of the links, more of the information, because all of that stuff that you shared today, I'm thinking in the back of my head, I could use all of those programs. I'm a City of Orlando resident, so I could access that and really make a difference, which I should have known this before you came on the show.
Well, a huge difference on your own pocketbook, and a huge difference on the environment, and a huge difference in making the city one of the most sustainable cities in the country. That's our charge.
I love it.
Orlando wants to be the most sustainable city in the Southeast, one of them across across the entire nation. And we are so positioned because of the leadership of Mayor Dyer, because of the Office of Sustainability, which I help direct, because of the community and the work that Ideas for Us is doing, the work that Sierra Club is doing, Fleet Farming, Hive Orlando's group, all of these groups who are essentially trying to add value and make us a more environmentally friendly city, and that's attracting talent. It's millennials and the younger generations want to move to a city that protects the environment and is progressive and forward thinking about how we essentially interact with each other and the environment, and that's important. And if we're going to be that world's class city that we are, and we're going to continue to sustain that, we're going to need to implement a lot of these types of programs and so much more. I mean, there's so much to talk about.
All right, so I could listen forever.
We'd be here for
you
a
have
long
at 2
time.
o'clock though, so I want to make sure I'm cognizant of your time.
Thank you.
Leave them with some parting words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Anything you want to share?
Well,
not that you haven't shared a ton.
There's a lot.
My brain's going. It's not
point is there's a lot. So I really encourage you all. One thing to note is that no action is too small. Everybody has an ability of really making a difference in our world today, and in improving public health and quality of life. We all, the small little things, everything from minimizing plastic use, single-use plastic, and moving away from straws. That's a big deal. There's a big campaign in Orlando. Orlando doesn't suck, right? We need to move away from straws.
Eric's pushing that,
right? Eric's been pushing it big time. No foam, right? These things matter. And so all of these little things that I talked about, getting your tree, starting to recycle, starting to compost, doing an energy audit, tapping into the community solar farm, riding your bike and walking more to get to your destination, all of these things have a huge impact on a local and a global scale. And if we all do this collectively, if you're doing it, if I'm doing it, if Clay's doing it, if the mayor's doing it, if our community is doing it, we're gonna make a drastic impact. And so I really encourage you all to look into improving the sustainability of your own livelihood. It starts within. It starts with changing our mindset about our interactions with the environment, why this is important, and sometimes it's altruistic, and sometimes it's about saving money. The beautiful thing about sustainability is that it's a win-win opportunity. Almost everything we're talking about here is lowering your cost, lowering the cost for the city, lowering the impacts on the environment, driving job growth, protecting our air, water, soils. I mean, it's not snake oil is the point.
No, it's not.
It's all really important, and it's all very impactful. And so check out more information on our website at the city. It's greenworksorlando.com. That'll direct you straight to our website, and you can dive into all of the programs: energy, buildings, water, transportation, local food, livability, solid waste, all of these important areas, and you can look through ways in which you can make Greenworks for your home. How do we make Greenworks for your home and for your life? And we're really working on that scale now. And then don't hesitate to reach out. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on social media accounts, and let's find ways to get you plugged in to the movement here in Orlando. We have an incredible movement of organizations, community groups, monthly events that essentially are engaging people and making Orlando a model sustainable city, and that's most important. When you compare us to Miami, or you compare us to any other city, in my opinion, around the country, we have the best community engagement around making us a more sustainable city than anywhere. And even Portland, I was just with the mayor of Portland, Mayor Wheeler, and he realized that there's a lot of things that they can learn from us, and we're all thinking, well, Portland's the mecca of sustainability, and there's opportunities across this country for us to bridge the divide. In fact, I'm working on an alliance between the city of Portland to see how we can, work with them and make both of our cities more sustainable, more environmentally friendly. This is all critical. This is the most important work that all of us could be doing in the 21st century, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be helping the city move in the right direction, and really happy to share these stories with you all.
I mean, you've been a joy to have on the show. Thank you so much. But you can't, all that energy that you guys are commenting on, and they're all making comments on it, trust me.
I'll look back
and we will definitely respond to you, but it's palpable and you can feel it. You love it, you eat it, you breathe it, you definitely practice it. And
some people think my blood's green.
That should be a hashtag somewhere. Chris's blood is green. But you've been a joy. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything. And then we'll share all of those links once we post the video. And again, Chris is incredibly accessible. Everybody in the mayor's office is accessible. we talk about that a lot on the show when I have guests from the mayor's office or anyone in government. You all really do want to help us, and we're part of the solution. So in order for us to be part of the solution, we need accessibility to the people who can help us. So reach out to Chris.
Come out to City Council. Express your interest and your thoughts around sustainability.
Absolutely.
It's important for our commissioners and for mayor and for the community in general to hear about what you care about and what makes, what's important to you, and that will help me and my office better understand the priorities. We do have a public survey out for Greenworks right now that we're trying to gather the last bit of input and feedback. The Orlando Sentinel just did a great article on that, so check out, the link is on our website, and we hope that you participate and be a part of this transformation to a sustainable city.
Absolutely. All right, we love you guys. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.